Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today you join me on Forza Horizon 4. In today's video I'm starting a small challenge series called Racing Through the Pinnacle. This challenge consists of me driving a car through the Needle Climb Drift Zone in the Fortune Island expansion pack without drifting the cars. If the car does drift, I will add a second per every 1,000 points. In this challenge we're trying to see what cars can go up the drift zone the fastest. Disclaimer, because I'm not a professional Forza driver, there will be some driver error here and there that may affect some of the times. Also, some Twitch sometimes glitches my Forza live streams and it can affect the files. So I had to do some retakes of the actual runs, which, may prove to have different times. So that can affect the times. Now, before we go to the actual video, I want to promote my podcast channel with my friend and fellow YouTuber UnpopularWaffle, whose links are also in the description down below. This Friday, on July 9th of 2021, at 12 p.m. Pacific and 3 p.m. Eastern, we will be premiering the first episode of our podcast, Famously Unpopular. So please go subscribe to the channel so that you're notified when that video goes live. Link in the description down below. Now, on to the video. Now, in today's video, we're going to be using cars from the modern supercar division. They're also going to be in around the same year range, so they don't have that much difference in performance. Now, today's first contestant is the Huracan, Lamborghini Huracan 2014. Now, this car has a rating of 8.2 at speed, 7.8 handling, 9.2 acceleration, 10 at launch, 8.4 at braking. It also has a performance index of S1 866. It is also all-wheel drive. This car also has 602 horsepower, 413 foot-pounds of torque, and it weighs around 3,135 pounds. Now here we're going to start. Now the reason we go both up and downhill is to test the different factors in the car. How it displaces its power when going around corners, both going up and down, which in those different aspects can prove to be either difficult or easy for whatever car you're using. Now for this car, as you can see as I'm turning the corners, it is very quick at displacing its power since it has all-wheel drive. It can get off the corners very quickly. Now, a problem we're going to see when I go a little bit deeper into these corners is that it is a little bit hard to actually turn right or left depending on how fast I'm going, and that's because it is all-wheel drive. So there is this issue of understeer when it comes into the car turning and displacing the power at the same time. Now, even so, because it has all-wheel drive, it will launch off the corners very quickly. So that is one of the good things about this Lamborghini. Now, as we're getting close to the end, we so far have 0 drift points, which seems to be a good placeholder for the moment. And here we go. This right corner, we're going up a little bit more, almost to the last switchbacks of this race. I'm reaching 93, 94, and then I go wide on this corner, take a left, but that allows me to go a lot deeper into that sharp corner. Last switchback, lock up a little bit. Keep it 50, 50s, almost 60 miles an hour, 60 miles an hour, and go across the line at a 125.125. Now, in respects to the other cars, we don't know how fast that is, but we'll see when we get to the second car. Now we're gonna line up to the sign, and we're gonna start downhill race. Get the roaring V10 online, rev it up, prepare for the launch. 3, 2, 1, and then cross the line. Start off left-hand corner, good speed, 50 miles an hour. All-wheel drive allows me to go really fast, go up to almost 80 miles an hour, take another right-hand turn, go a little bit slower than the first corner, but here we go one more time. These corners chain really well if your car can control the pressure of the tires and if you can keep traction during the corner. This corner also allows you to see the stability and rigidity of your suspension as well as your frame of the car. Turn right, if you go a little wide right here, for example, it can lead you into the dirt and it can slow down your time, but I did pretty well doing that corner. Anyways, we go here, another switchback, go a little bit faster, almost 100 and almost 110 miles an hour to the left-hand corner. Another test for the suspension and rigidity of the actual car, and one more time we go downhill, almost 80 miles an hour, 80 miles an hour, almost 90 miles an hour to almost the last hairpins of the downhill section, and then we here and cut over the corners, left hand hairpin, all-wheel drive, same like the uphill, And last corner to the right, going a little bit slower, almost like the uphill as well, going around 60 miles an hour, and we cross the line at a 122.222. Now, once again, we don't really know what that number means compared to the other cars, so I will present to you the second car that we're going to be using for today's challenge, and that is the Nissan GTR 2017. Now, this car's stats are 7.9 at speed, 7.2 at handling, 9.6 acceleration, 10 launch, and 7.6 braking. It also has a PI class of 836, and it is also all-wheel drive like the Lamborghini Huracan. Now, the horsepower is a little bit less, at 565 horsepower, 467 foot-pounds of torque, and it weighs a lot more than the Lamborghini at 3,933 pounds. Now, will that weight be good for the car or worse for the car? It really depends. Maybe it'll be more stable compared to the Lamborghini, since it'll have a more fluid / consistent deployment of speed. But as we go through these corners, we see it's a little bit slower than the Lamborghini Huracan. This corner will go a little bit wider, and it starts to slide a little bit more, but it is a lot more consistent with the deployment of power, since it is a lot heavier and that power goes in a more fluid state. Now, as we go around these corners, we go a little bit more wide, a little slippier with the GTR than the Lamborghini, but it doesn't really burn the wheels like the Lamborghini did. The Lamborghini has a lot more power, around like 25-ish, or a little bit more power, 50-something more horsepower than the GTR, so that does make a little bit of a difference when it comes to the speed and how fast the wheels go, and whether or not it will burn the wheels. Now, as we're turning on the last few corners, you can get the turbos riling up. Now, whether that's a good or bad thing really depends on the deployment speed. Now, we're going around this corner around 80 miles per hour, which is at least 20 miles per hour less than the actual Lamborghini Huracan, but we did get a better corner and not get that sharp of a turn on the hairpin. Now we're getting to the last sector, a lot slower than the Lamborghini, going around 50 miles per hour. Here we go, last and cross the line at a 126.492. That is at least 1 second slower than Lamborghini. Now, I don't know if that's going to change, whether we go downhill, but here we are. Now, this clip, I took it, and the reason it's going to look different compared to the previous clip is because this clip was taken from the original file, while the clip that you just saw was from the previous live stream that I had done it once more time so that I could get the files correctly, because the original uphill for the Nissan GTR was kind of glitched. Now, because we are in a heavier car going downhill compared to the Lamborghini, there might be an advantage because it'll make the car go faster going downhill, but we'll see what time we get by the end of this. Now, as I said previously, the GTR is a lot heavier, so it did get a little bit wider on this corner, but I had to slow down a little bit more. It did pick up a lot of speed during that little downhill, so there might be an advantage going down this hill, since it is a lot heavier. It has less horsepower, but it does have more torque. Now, of course, there's a car over there passing by, and then there's another AI car over there. This was during an online Horizon lobby, so there will be a lot of people throughout the actual course of the video, so I do apologize. But now, nearing the last few hairpin corners, we take one more right turn, we go down this little double section, S section, then we get second to last hairpin corner, go forward, blast out with the GTR engine, taking the corner, going a lot, around the same speed as the Lamborghini Huracan, and we cross the line at a 124.525. Now, that doesn't mean it's the slowest out of all the cars, so the next contestant that we're going to drive is the Ferrari 488 GTB. Now, this beautiful Italian masterpiece has a speed rating of 8.5, a handling rating of 8.1, acceleration 7.5, launch at 9.1, and braking at 8.7. It also has a PI class of S1 883, but it is rear-wheel drive, unlike the other two, so that'll be different. Now, it also has a lot more horsepower than the other two, 660 horsepower, 560 foot-pounds of torque, and it weighs a little bit more than the Lamborghini, but a lot less than the GTR. Now, here we go. We're going to start off the race right after the cars passes and the Super passes the line. 3, 2, 1, and then we jump off in the launch, and then we go into the first corner after a little bit of wheel spin in third gear. Of course, this car is a lot lighter and a lot faster off its feet, especially since it is rear-wheel drive. It has the ability to pour out a lot more power a lot quicker, but it also means it has a lot less traction when you're going around the corners. Now, as you see, I have to just go a lot lighter on the power. I'll drift like that, just there. 2,447 points, the first points out of all the cars. Now that means I'm going to be adding 2 seconds to the uphill time for the Ferrari 488 GTB, but that may prove to be either good or bad or neither, because this will either be a very fast time or it'll be a slow time. With the 2 more points, 2 extra seconds, it'll either make it or break it, depending on how fast we go up this hill. Now, of course, this car, because it is rear-wheel drive, it is a lot lighter to handle than both the Lamborghini and the GTR. And it is obviously just a little bit heavier than the Lamborghini, but that doesn't really affect it. It is a lot lighter, on the other hand, than the GTR, so that makes it a lot easier for the car to go up the hill. Now, here for the last 2 hairpin corners to the left, I get a really good corner to the left. A little bit slow though, but now here we go, 60, almost 90 miles per hour. You get 86, we're going at a pretty quick speed. We go down a little too low though, but then we pass it. This time is a 126.325, but because there was 2,000 points of drift, we have to add 2 more seconds, and it ends up as a 128.325. Now, looking at those numbers, we see that it is a little bit faster than the GTR, but it is slower than the Huracan. Now, with that information, we may or may not know if it'll go faster or slower than the Huracan or the GTR down the hill. Now, as we get a lot of wheel spin down to first turn to the left, we get a second gear. We stay up around 50, up to 60, up to 80 miles per hour, almost 90 miles per hour. We take that right turn. We go down to this first S-shaped turn. Of course, as we did with the other cars, this is a test of how good our braking is after that little jump, because we lose a lot of traction in that corner. Now we go left. Of course, go to the right one more time, and this corner, if we take it either good or bad, will give us or make us lose time. Now, of course, we're going next to the VW van, but in this corner we take it pretty good. We take a deep corner, we take a lot of speed, we go to this S section, and one more time we go through this left-hand corner that can either make us get speed or lose speed, depending on how well we take it. Now here we did a pretty good job. We lose a little bit of traction, but that does not give any drift points in this situation. We get a lot of cars, traffic on this drift spot, because it is a very popular drift spot in Fortune Island. Now we take a little right, we go a little bit slower than the other cars because of the rear-wheel drive that may make us fear whether or not we drift the corner. We lock up for the second time on this last hairpin turn to the left, and then the final hairpin to the right. We go pretty quickly up to almost 90 miles per hour again. We keep a close range up to 50, and we go around the corner, and we pass the time at a 123.857. Which makes it the second fastest car down the hill so far. So now we bring in the Ferrari's main competitor, which is the Ford GT 2017. Now this Ford GT has a 8.6 speed rating, 8.4 handling, 7.5 acceleration, 9 at flat in launch, and a braking at 8.9. It also has a very flat S1 rating of 900, and it is also rear-wheel drive. Now this Ford GT has 630 horsepower, 539 foot-pounds of torque, and it weighs way less than the other cars so far at a 2,890 pounds of weight. Now as we go off the line, you see we're going to have a lot of wheel spin, and that is because of how lightweight the car is and how much power it has, so it'll make it a lot harder for the car to control around the corners. Now as we see, we go a little bit deep in this corner, and we can see the wing in action. Now the Ford GT is the only car that has the rising and lowering wing or adjusting wing so far. The 488 GTB and the Lamborghini use aerodynamics throughout the car in the body frame to create downforce. And the GTR does have a wing, but it is stationary compared to the Ford GT. The Ford GT, it does have a moving wing, which may or may not affect how fast we go up this hill. It'll probably add some amount of downforce that'll help with traction, but as we see, it is quite loose around the corners. It does swing the rear very wide sometimes, and as you see, it loses control quite a bit when you apply too much power into the rear wheels. Now as we can see, it is going a lot faster around these corners than the previous cars. going up to 101 miles per hour in that last section before we got into the corner. Now we do a turn left, and we lose a little bit more traction. We see skid marks on the ground because of the rear wheels, because of how lightweight the car is. Now, as we turn these last two corners, we go left. We go a little bit slower than we would want to, but we do get a pretty good corner. Now, the wing rises. We get a little bit more of braking action. We take a right turn, and then we got to the exit. A little bit of wheel spin, and we reach a 127.828. Now, that is slower than all the cars so far. Well, not really, but the 488 GTB flat, without the extra bonuses because of the drift, did have a 126.325, which is faster by 1 second than the 4GT. But because of 2 added seconds, we do have to have it at a 128. So far, it is the third fastest up the hill. Now, as you see, we're going to get ready for this section. And 3, 2, 1, we jump off and we hit the start zone of the drift area. We take a left turn. The wing is in action one more time. We go a little bit wide. We go deeper into the corner. Now we push, going up almost to 100 miles per hour one more time. We take a right. Then the wing goes all the way down. We see an AI car, and there goes the other Ferrari one more time, as we saw. While we went uphill, the guy was drifting, because this is one of the challenges for the Fortune Island treasure hunt, which is drive or drift a Ferrari through the drift zone and get a certain amount of points. Now we take this right-hand turn, which can either brake or make the time, and we see we get a pretty good turn, but we also lose a little bit of traction. We lock up a little bit into that corner. The wing is moving. We get a little bit loss of traction. Now we go forwards. We take a left into this corner, which can also either make or break our time. We go pretty good into this corner. The rigidity and the structure of the actual car makes it easier for turn the car around, and how lightweight it is also makes it easier to turn around. Now, between all the cars, this 4GT and the Ferrari are a lot lighter to control than both the Nissan and the Lamborghini. So if you do want light cars, I recommend these two, the 488 and the Ferrari. The Ford. Now we take a left turn, second last hairpin. The wing in action, the circles braking, and then we get a little bit of points on the drift, but only 700 points, so that does not add to the 123.524 time, which does make it the second fastest car so far down the hill. Now we have the last car of today's video, and it is the Saleen S1. Speed rating of 7.0, handling 8.0, acceleration 7.9, launch 9.3, braking 8.5. It has an PI class of S1 837, like its name, and it is also rear-wheel drive. Now this car has way less horsepower than all cars so far, 450 horsepower. It also has 442 foot-pounds of torque, and it weighs less than all the other cars at 2,685 pounds. Now, as we can see, this car is a lot lighter than other cars, but it has less horsepower than all the cars so far. That means we're not going to have as much loss of traction when we go around the corners and we exit, so that'll either add time or make it lose time. Now, for the uphill, it will be very useful, and it'll probably have a very quick time, since we won't be losing any traction. We don't have the fear of losing traction and gaining points, so this will allow us to go a lot faster around the corners as we exit the corners. Now in this corner, as you can see, we're going to take a good dive, but then we're going to go a little bit far to the right, and that's because we do have a little weight at the front compared to the back, and it will affect how we take the turns. Now we go forward in this corner, we take a right, and then this corner does most of the time make us lose a lot of traction in all the other cars so far, but we don't lose any traction because this car is so light and the horsepower is at a good range, and it doesn't allow us. Now here we do take a little bit of a slide to the right and we lose a little bit of traction in the rear wheels, but we don't make any drifts just because we can control the car very well as it drifts. And now we're getting to the last few hairpins. We go up this hill. Now we're not going as fast as we want to be. We can only reach around 90 miles per hour. We do get a very large drift to the left, but we don't get any points because this car is very easy to control and the rear wheels keep a lot of traction. Now we take the last hairpin to the right. We go pretty quick, almost up to 60 miles per hour. Then we go down back to 50 miles per hour, 60 miles per hour, and then we get a 126.692. Now that makes it the third fastest car up the hill so far. Now we line up for the last downhill. Now looking to all the previous information, we see that the Nissan GTR, having the least horsepower and being very heavy, didn't really have a good time compared to all the other cars. Now the Ford GT, being the lightest and with the second most horsepower, had the second fastest time. Now the Lamborghini had not as much horsepower as the Ferrari and the Ford GT, but it was around the same weight as the Ferrari and the Nissan GTR. Now, what's important from that data is that we need to understand that the combination between weight and horsepower will allow the car to go the fastest down the hill. Now currently the Lamborghini does hold the fastest time downhill, but we may see a difference in the times if the actual Saleen S1 can get a faster time downhill because it does have a lighter frame, but it also has less horsepower than the other cars. Now as we take this left-hand corner, we need to see and test the rigidity of the structure of the car and see if it can handle. Oh, right there, we had a little bit of a drift. Now a lot of the rear-wheel drive cars get a lot of lift during that little jump in the corner. So now we're gonna get to the last few S section, take a right on the hairpin, go a little bit wide, which once again gives us a better deep intake to these corners. And over here, and since it's so light, we can take this corner and break a very late point. Now we take the second, we get the last left-hand turn, and then we get to the last corner to the right. Here we go, getting very close to the other times. Going around 60 miles per hour, we leave, and then we leave at a 125.558. And that makes it the slowest down the hill, unfortunately. So that means that today's winner is, drum roll please, the Lamborghini Huracan with a time of 122.22 down the hill and a 125.125 up the hill. Now, if any of you have any suggestions for what cars I should use next, then leave some in the description down below. But besides that, we have the winner. We have our winner for today's video, the Lamborghini Huracan. Now, if you guys want to try it for yourselves, I would recommend doing so because, of course, I had some driver error previously. Some of the times I may have been switched, but for today's video, we have the Lamborghini as our winner. Now, I thank you everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed this different type of video. We had a lot of commentary in this video. It's very different from my normal type of content, and I had to do a couple retakes for my actual commentary for the actual runs. I will also say, please check out the podcast channel. The premiering episode should be up on the podcast channel. I will leave a link in the description for that. Thank you everyone for watching. If you enjoyed, remember to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell to be notified if I do make another video of this type of content. We'll have a bunch of other cars, and we'll keep it around the 5 to 6 different cars per video. And yeah, if you have any recommendations for any cars, leave it in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.